India's view on that, on mediation, and what did India convey to these countries?
Okay, Jessica.
Hi sir, this is Jessica Taneja for DD India. Now that both sides have agreed for stoppage of firing and military action, what will happen to the Indus water treaty? Because Pakistan has said that stopping of water will be considered as an act of war. What are your views on this?
Kadambini.
कादम्बरी शर्मा, इंडिपेंडेंट जर्नलिस्ट। सर, डोनाल्ड ट्रंप ने एक बयान दिया है कि उन्होंने सीज फायर जो हुआ है वो उन्होंने ट्रेड का हवाला देकर कराया है, तो क्या प्रधानमंत्री मोदी और डोनाल्ड ट्रंप के बीच ट्रेड को लेकर कोई बात हुई है इस संदर्भ में?
सिद्धांत.
Hi sir, I am Siddhant from CNN News 18. Sir, any reaction to a statement which came from Pakistan's Foreign Ministry on Prime Minister Modi's speech from Frontline Adampur Air Base?
Okay, let me take these questions and then we'll come back for more. So Siddhant, regarding your question, as you are aware, we have a long-standing national position that any issues pertaining to the Union territory of Jammu and Kashmir have to be addressed by India and Pakistan bilaterally. That stated policy has not changed. As you are aware, the outstanding matter is the vacation of illegally occupied Indian territory by Pakistan. और people like Manish, आपके लिए मैं हिंदी में रूपांतर कर दे रहा हूं. हमारा लंबे अरसे से यही राष्ट्रीय पक्ष रहा है कि भारतीय केंद्र शासित प्रदेश जम्मू और कश्मीर से संबंधित किसी भी मुद्दे को भारत और पाकिस्तान को द्विपक्षीय तरीके से ही हल करना है. इस रीति में कोई बदलाव नहीं हुआ है. जैसा कि आप जानते हैं, लंबित मामला केवल पाकिस्तान द्वारा अवैध रूप से कब्जा किए गए भारतीय क्षेत्र को खाली करने का है. Siddhant, you had another question regarding ceasefire and what sort of role other countries played, etc. See, the specific date, time and wording of the understanding was worked out between the DGMOs of the two countries at their phone call on 10th May 2025, commencing at 15:35 hours. The Foreign Secretary had made a statement in this regard, as you would be aware. The request for this call was received by MEA from the Pakistani High Commission at 12:37 hours. The Pakistani side had initial difficulties connecting the hotline due to connecting to the Indian side due to technical difficulties. The timing was then decided based on the availability of the Indian DGMO at 15:35 hours. You will of course appreciate that early on 10th morning, we had mounted an extremely effective attack on key Pakistani Air Force bases. That was the reason they were now willing to stop firing and military action. Let me be clear, it was the force of Indian arms that compelled Pakistan to stop its firing. As regards conversations with other nations, the message from India was clear and consistent, and exactly the same message that we were conveying from public platforms was the one conveyed in private conversations. It was that India was responding to the 22nd April terrorist attack by targeting the terrorist infrastructure. However, if the Pakistani armed forces fire, Indian armed forces will fire back. If Pakistan stops, India will also stop. This was also the message that was conveyed to the Pakistani side at the time of the commencement of Operation Sindoor, which was not heeded to by the Pakistani side at that time. It is natural that many foreign leaders who heard this from us would have shared it with their Pakistani interlocutors. Jessica, you had a question on IWT. The other day you saw that after the CCS decision, this Indus Water Treaty has been put in abeyance. I would also like to take you back a little. The IWT, the Indus Water Treaty, was concluded in the spirit of goodwill and friendship as specified in the preamble of the treaty. However, Pakistan has held these principles in abeyance by its promotion of cross-border terrorism for several decades now. Now, as per CCS decision that I referred to of 23rd April, India will keep the treaty in abeyance until Pakistan credibly and irrevocably abjures its support for cross-border terrorism. Please also note that climate change, demographic shifts and technological changes have created new realities on ground as well. Kandanmi had a question regarding trade matters. From the time of Operation Sindoor commenced on 7th May, till the understanding on cessation of firing and military action on 10th May, there were conversations between Indian and US leaders on the evolving military situation. The issue of trade did not come up in any of these discussions. Siddhant, you had a question on the latest statement issued by the Pakistan Foreign Office. We have seen the statement made by the Pakistani side that a nation which has nurtured terrorism on an industrial scale should think that it can escape the consequences is fooling itself. The terrorist infrastructure sites that India destroyed were responsible not only for the deaths of Indians, but of many other innocents around the world. There is now a new normal. The sooner Pakistan gets it, the better it is. Shall we take more questions? Aditya?
Mr. Jaiswal, I have two quick questions. One, that some of the Indian diplomats who have given interviews abroad have said that India has electronic intercepts and gathered intelligence linking to Pahalgam attackers to the handlers, and they have been planning more attacks. So have you given any kind of this evidence to the foreign attaches and diplomats that were briefed today, and in the context of ambassadors also that were briefed earlier? And yeah, that's about it.
Megha?
Good evening, sir. Megha from NewsAx. My question is that India, it's being reported, is going to be sending a team to the UNSC 1267 Sanctions Committee. The meeting is going to be held later in the week, and the purpose for it is to declare the TRF as a globally designated terrorist organization. If you could shed more light into this.
Okay. Rishabh?
Spokesperson, good evening. Rishabh from Times. Now, I have just two questions here. Pakistan Foreign Minister Ishaq Dar has given an interview to CNN, and where he has claimed success and suggested that India was keen to have the ceasefire. Your comments on that? Also, there are a lot of buzz on social media as well as in various international media about nuclear leakage in Pakistan. Can you shed some light on that as well?
Manas?
This is Manas from PTI. US President Donald Trump, again, he claimed yesterday that he stopped a nuclear conflict between India and Pakistan, and he stopped escalation and saved millions of lives through by reaching out to both capitals. He even said that in fact he pressured India and Pakistan to just come forward for the cessation of hostilities saying that if you don't do, then I will stop trade with both the countries. So can you please clarify whether he just reached out to us and asked us to stop? You have been maintaining that, in fact, the resolution was arrived at by two DGMOs, but have you just protested with the US side for making these claims, which we consider are baseless?
Okay, let me take these questions. First, Aditya, your question. You know, we have had several rounds of briefings, and in these briefings, we have also shared with you the kind of linkage we see between the perpetrators of the attack of Pahalgam, in particular the Resistance Front. Foreign Secretary in his statement also made very clear the kind of evidence that we see, and investigation is going on in this particular matter. You would have seen that TRF had taken responsibility, and then second time again, second day, twice they had taken responsibility, and thereafter, possibly at the behest of their handlers, they rolled it back. But TRF is one organization which is a front of the Lashkar-e-Taiba, and you would understand and perhaps be in the knowledge of it that we have been pursuing listing of TRF in the United Nations, by the United Nations Security Council, by the Sanctions Committee, UNSC 1267 Sanctions Committee. I'm not privy to what was shared 2 hours back, but for sure we'll update you on as to how the investigation progresses in this matter. Mega on UNSC 1267 Sanctions Committee. Yes, over the last 2 years or so, 23, 24, we have been sharing information with the United Nations Security Council, the monitoring team of the Sanctions Committee, as to why the terrorist TRF, which is the front for Lashkar-e-Taiba, should be listed as a terrorist entity. We will be also, in few days' time, we will be sharing more details in this regard, and hopefully Security Council 1267 monitoring team will take strong note of what we present, what we file, and take due action against that is required. Rishabh, on your question regarding the interview that the Pak Foreign Minister gave. In the last week, as a result of Operation Sindoor, Pakistan has seen its terror centers in Bahawalpur, Murudke, Muzaffarabad, and other places destroyed. You have been informed of it in several of the briefings that we've had. Thereafter, its military capabilities were significantly degraded by us, and key air bases effectively put out of action. If the Pakistani FM wishes to project these as achievement, obviously he is welcome to do so. Where India is concerned, our stand was very clear and consistent from the start. We would target terrorist infrastructure operating out of Pakistan. If the Pakistani military stayed out, there would be no problem. If they fired on us, we would respond suitably. Till the night of 9th May, Pakistan was threatening India with a massive assault. Once their attempt failed on 10th May morning, and they received a devastating Indian counter response, their tune changed, and their DGMO eventually reached out to us. I just referred to the timings, etc., as to when they reached out. In essence, India's position remained the same. Pakistan's position changed on 10th May morning after its air bases were effectively put out of action. All you have to do is to look at who called who to negotiate the terms of the cessation of firing. By the way, we are living in a day and age where you have satellite pictures available commercially. I urge you to look at the satellite pictures of the sites which Pakistan says or claims to have attacked in India. contrast it with the sites and places which we successfully targeted and destroyed, that will give you a clear answer. Claiming victory is an old habit. 1975 की बात यही थी, 71 की बात यही रही, 1999 करगिल वॉर में भी यही राग आलापा. तो पाकिस्तान का तो पुराना ये उनका ढोल बजाने का है, जो रवैया है, आलापने का रवैया है, ढोल बहुत पुराना है. परस्त हो जाओ लेकिन ढोल बजाओ. Rishabh, you also had a question regarding on that. I think there are 2-3 things there. There's talk of we saw some social media post about Egyptian, American aircraft, etc. But those questions are for them to answer, not for us. But on the nuclear, in the defense briefing, if you remember, our side made things very clear as to what was the target, etc. As far as your particular question, I think the Pak Foreign Minister also has made some comments on that. Manas, about nuclear issue that you pointed out. See, the military action from our side was entirely in the conventional domain. This was also made very clear in the defense briefing yesterday. There were some questions also which were asked. There were some reports, however, that Pakistan National Command Authority will meet on 10th May, which we saw, but this was later denied by them. Pakistan FM has himself denied the nuclear angle on record. So, Rishabh, that also answers your question. As you know, India has a firm stance that it will not give in to nuclear blackmail or allow cross-border terrorism to be conducted invoking it. In conversations with various countries, we have also cautioned that their subscribing to such scenarios could hurt them in their own region. Can we take more questions? Okay.
Good evening, sir. Here Maheshwari from Sputnik, sir. Just a clarification. Secretary Baku Rubio tweeted that India and Pakistan had agreed to ceasefire as well as start talks on a broad range of issues at a neutral site. So would it be possible to get a clarification on this if we agreed to that? And sir, the second question is about India-US trade talks. India has formally notified the WTO proposing retaliatory tariffs against select US imports over Washington's tariffs on steel and aluminum imports. Would it be possible to get a clarification on this? And does it affect India's negotiating position vis-a-vis the bilateral trade agreement? Thank you.
Okay, Smita.
Smita Sharma here. I mean, the US State Department actually in the press statement of 10th May, it was in bold and headline that mentioned US brokered ceasefire between India and Pakistan. I'm just trying to understand if New Delhi actually rejected it outrightly, raised it with Washington DC then, that this framing was incorrect, or is it only now that India is making it clear that there was no US role in it? And just a quick question on whether there's any update on PK Sahu, the BSF constable, who has been in Pakistan captivity for more than 20 days now. Or he's been arrested there because he never been crossed.
Swasri.
Mr. Jaiswal, this is Suhasini Heather from The Hindu. In continuation to Smita's question about whether India has raised with the US these clearly what you are calling false statements made by US President Donald Trump, that India did not broker, the US did not broker a ceasefire, that trade was not discussed. These are all things that have been said now on the record in camera. So have you raised this at any level? And similarly, yesterday at the MOD briefing, we heard them speak about the Chinese equipment, hardware support to Pakistan. I wanted to ask if this is something that is going to be taken up with China. in terms of India and China's own bilateral relationship. So both of them, are these two things going to have any impact on India's relations with either the US or China?
Neeraj.
सर नीरज हूँ न्यूज 18। सर नीरज हूँ न्यूज 18 इंडिया से। आपने कहा कि कई अमेरिकी नेताओं की बात मिलिट्री जो कार्रवाई चल रही थी भारत की उस दौरान बातचीत हुई। प्रधानमंत्री नरेंद्र मोदी से किस अमेरिकी नेता की बातचीत हुई? क्योंकि मीडिया रिपोर्ट में आया है कि अमेरिकी उपराष्ट्रपति जेडी वांस ने उनसे बातचीत भी किया और यह भी अनुरोध किया था कि वो अपनी मिलिट्री कार्रवाई को थोड़ा कम करें, डी-एस्केलेट करें। और दूसरा सवाल यह है कि जब भारत ऑपरेशन सिंदूर में चल रहा था पाकिस्तान के खिलाफ, आतंकवाद के खिलाफ माफ कीजिएगा, तो बांग्लादेश में अवामी लीग पर बैन लगा दिया वहां की सरकार ने। भारत इसको कैसे देख रहा है?
Okay, first regarding your question about Secretary Rubio's comments, on that I've already spoken. I've told you how the understanding between India and Pakistan was bilaterally reached and what was the conversation that we had with other countries. On trade matters, I do understand that there is a proposal which has been made in Geneva. It has been made very recently, so I don't have further details on that, but for sure we'll update you with the matter as we progress with those negotiations. Smita, again, I have already answered those questions of yours when I talked about, the question of ceasefire as to who decided, what were the terms, when it happened, etc. So I would urge you to look at those comments of mine. I've told you that we have conveyed our position. I conveyed our position here on record, so I will request you to look at that. On the matter of PK Sahu, I don't have an update, so possibly we'll get you an update, but these are matters which pertain to the Ministry of Defence and they're looking into it. Again, Suhasini, on ceasefire, I've made India's position very clear, where we stand. So I would urge you to look at my comments. On the other question that you had, and possibly it had come up in the conversation or the press conference yesterday, there we have, I would say that we have obviously taken note of this. I direct your attention to the comments in the defense briefing about the extent of their effectiveness or otherwise. नीरज, आपके दो सवाल। प्रधानमंत्री की बात अमेरिका के उपराष्ट्रपति जेडी वांस से हुई थी और उस दरमियान जो बातचीत हुई थी दोनों नेताओं के बीच में, उससे आपको अवगत भी कराया गया है। जहां तक अवामी लीग की बात है, the ban on the Awami League without due process is a concerning development. As a democracy, India is naturally concerned at curtailment of democratic freedoms and shrinking political space. We strongly support the early holding of free, fair and inclusive elections in Bangladesh. जो अवामी लीग पे बैन लगा है वो एक चिंता का विषय है। एक जो लोकतांत्रिक प्रणाली में एक तरीका होता है सब काम करने का, वो ड्यू प्रोसेस को दरकिनार करके किया गया है। एक लोकतंत्र के रूप में भारत जो वहां पर लोकतांत्रिक आजादी को रोका जा रहा है और जो वहां पर राजनीतिक गतिविधियों के लिए जो दायरा है वो कम हो रहा है, इसको लेके हम लोग चिंतित हैं। और साथ में ये हमारा ये मानना है, हमारा ये आह्वान है कि बांग्लादेश में जल्द से जल्द एक निष्पक्ष और समावेशी चुनाव कराया जाए। Can we then go? मनीष।
सर, मैं मनीष झा हूँ, TV9 भारतवर्ष से। पिछले दिनों हमने एक और कैरेक्टर देखा, वो था तुर्की का रोल। जिस तरीके से टर्की के ड्रोन पाकिस्तान ने इस्तेमाल किए, इसके अलावा टर्की ने लगातार इस मामले में पाकिस्तान का सपोर्ट किया। जब हम आतंकवाद के खिलाफ लड़ाई लड़ रहे हैं और टर्की उस समय पाकिस्तान के साथ है, जबकि आपको याद होगा 9/11 के टाइम में अमेरिका का डायलॉग था कि अगर आप हमारे साथ नहीं हैं तो आप आतंकियों के साथ हैं। तो टर्की के मामले में भारत की अब नीति क्या रहने वाली है?
देखिए, जो सवाल का जवाब दे दिया गया उसको ना पूछे, कोई नया सवाल हो तो बताएं। यशी।
This is Yeshi Seli from Business India. Are there any leads of the terrorists who attacked on the 22nd of April? And 3 terrorists were neutralized in Shopian today. Do they have any links with the terror attack of the 22nd? And in addition, when are the next DGMO talks likely to be?
एक मिनट। बताइए
सर। ब्रह्म प्रकाश हूँ न्यूज़ इंडिया से। मेरा सवाल है कि जिस तरह से ऑपरेशन सिंदूर के दौरान जो हमारे मित्र देशों की भूमिका रही, उसको लेकर खासतौर से अमेरिका की भूमिका ये देखा गया है कि भारत और पाकिस्तान को एक ही तराजू में बराबर तौला गया है, ये माना जा रहा है। क्या जिस तरह से भारत कहता रहा है, अमेरिका कहता रहा है कि दोनों क्लोज पार्टनर है, क्या भारत की डिप्लोमेसी को एक तरह से अमेरिका की तरफ से झटका लगा है? भारत इस पर दोबारा विचार करेगा? क्योंकि जिस तरह से रुख रहा है अमेरिका का, ये माना जा रहा है, सीधे शब्दों में कहें कि अमेरिका ने धोखा दिया इस पूरे मामले में। क्या कहना है?
मधुरेंद्र।
सर, मधुरेंद्र, मैं न्यूज नेशन से। यह स्पष्ट है कि चीन और तुर्की के हथियार भारत के खिलाफ इस्तेमाल किए गए, और इसी संदर्भ में मैं जानना चाहता हूं कि डिफेंस इंटेलिजेंस एजेंसी की जो आज ब्रीफिंग हुई है, क्या उसमें डिफेंस अटैचे चीन के और तुर्की के बुलाए गए थे? क्या बुलाए जाने पर उन्होंने अटेंड किया? दूसरा सवाल मेरा यह है कि हमने एक डिटरेंट क्रिएट किया है कि एनी एक्ट ऑफ टेरर विल बी एक्ट ऑफ वॉर, तो क्या उसको डिफाइन कर सकते हैं कि क्या आगे होने वाला कोई भी भारत पर पाकिस्तान की तरफ से या पाकिस्तान प्रेरित आतंक की तरफ से हमला सीधे तौर पर कार्रवाई के तौर पे पाकिस्तान पर वॉर के तौर पे देखा जाएगा? हम सीधे युद्ध थोपेंगे या युद्ध करेंगे पाकिस्तान से?
मनीष जी, पहले तुर्की को लेके काफी सारे सवाल थे। देखिए, सुहासिनी के सवाल के जवाब में मैंने बताया था कि हमारा क्या नजरिया है, और तुर्की को लेके और चीन के लेके उनके जो वेपन्स वगैरह को लेके जो डिफेंस की ब्रीफिंग में भी खुलासा किया गया। तो मैं कहूँगा कि आप जो वहाँ पर बताया गया बात, उस पर ध्यान केंद्रित करें। जहाँ तक हम लोग का सवाल है, हम लोग ने बताया कि हम लोगों ने इन गतिविधियों को नोट किया है, और साथ ही में जो कमेंट्स डिफेंस ब्रीफिंग में दिया गया था इन चीज़ों के बारे में, उस पर मैं आपका ध्यान आकर्षित कराना चाहता हूं। और साथ ही साथ उन्होंने इसकी इफेक्टिवनेस, जो कितना पुरजोर रहा उसके बारे में या नहीं रहा उसके बारे में उन्होंने बात किया था। Yeshi, the investigations are on, so we'll have to wait for the progress. Obviously, when we make progress, we'll keep you updated. DGMO talks, I understand, had happened yesterday, and many of you were informed of the developments and the discussion that had happened. The rest, as and when the next DGMO level talks happen, you will be kept informed of it. ब्रह्म प्रकाश जी, आपने जो बात की, हाइफिनेशन की बात की, कि एक तरीके से भारत पाकिस्तान दोनों साथ में बंध गए, एक हाइफिनेशन हो गया, तो उस पर हम लोग का यह मानना है कि इट इज क्वाइट द रिवर्स. देयर इज widespread understanding in the world that Indian tourists were the victims of terror at Pahalgam, and that the epicenter of terrorism is across the border in Pakistan. A number of foreign leaders, बहुत सारे विदेशी जो नेतागण हैं, उनसे जो हमारी बातचीत हुई, उसमें उन्होंने माना कि भारत को अपने को डिफेंड करने का उसका हक है, और अपने लोगों को बचाने का, उसकी सुरक्षा का प्रदान करने का उनको हक है. मैं आपका ध्यान यूएन सिक्योरिटी काउंसिल का जो रेजोल्यूशन है, प्रेस स्टेटमेंट यूएन सिक्योरिटी काउंसिल ने 25 अप्रैल को जो अपनाया था, उस पर मैं ध्यान दिलाना चाहूँगा. वो प्रेस स्टेटमेंट बड़ा क्लियरली ये बताता है, मैं कोट कर रहा हूँ, देयर इज नीड टू अपहोल्ड परपरेटर्स organizers, financiers, and sponsors of this reprehensible act of terrorism accountable and bring them to justice. It stressed that those responsible for this killing should be held accountable. तो इससे आप जो हाइफिनेशन की बात कर रहे हैं ना, उसके पूरे ही विपरीत लोगों ने माना है कि एक देश है जो आतंकवाद को बढ़ावा देता है, इंडस्ट्रियल स्केल पर आतंकवाद पैदा करता है और उनके खिलाफ सख्त से सख्त कार्रवाई होनी चाहिए।
अमेरिका ने भारत को धोखा दिया इस पूरे मामले में।
अमेरिका, जहां तक अमेरिका और अन्य देशों के बारे में हम लोगों ने अपना पक्ष आपके सामने रखा है। वी हैव श्रीधर, सॉरी, एक मिनट, ये इनका मधुरेंद्र का सवाल रह गया था। मधुरेंद्र, देखिए, तुर्की और चीन के अस्त्र के बारे में हमने अभी जवाब दे दिया है आपको, और जहां तक एक्ट ऑफ टेरर की बात है, हमारे तरफ से हमारे लीडरशिप के लेवल पे कहा जा रहा है कि क्रॉस बॉर्डर टेररिज्म का जहां सवाल है, हमारा जीरो टॉलरेंस रहेगा। जब भी कोई इस प्रकार का घटना होता है तो हम उसका पुरजोर जवाब देंगे। उस डिफेंस अटैचे को बुलाया गया, उसकी मीटिंग हुई थी, उन्हें बुलाया गया था। कौन कौन वहां आए थे इसके बारे में मेरी संज्ञान नहीं है, मैं आपको इसके बारे में अवगत कराऊंगा। क्या मैंने कहा ना कि हमारे जो अभी प्रधानमंत्री के भाषण में आपने देखा होगा किस प्रकार का बयान था क्रॉस बॉर्डर टेररिज्म को लेके, और आतंकवाद से लड़ने के लिए जो हमारा प्रण है, जो हमारा नीति है, उसके बारे में खुलासा किया गया था, वो नीति रहेगा।
So Sridhar from the Asian Age and Deccan Chronicle. So 3 months back when PM Modi visited the US, there was a joint statement in which the US specifically called out these Pakistan-based terror organizations. And there was widespread satisfaction in India at that point of time. But strangely, there was absolutely no reference to terror or Pakistan, that Pakistan needs to dismantle this terrorist infrastructure in the statements of President Trump. I mean, it was as if, two siblings are fighting and, the US has stepped in to end it. There was absolutely no reference to Pakistan sponsoring terrorism. Are you a bit shocked at that why there has been such a dramatic change in the past 3 months? And a small question, could we have a list of the civilian casualties in Operation Sindoor? We have got some figures from the military side on the military casualties, but the civilian casualties, are you going to reveal that? Thank you, sir.
Rita?
Vinita from the Asian Age Deccan Chronicle. Randir ji, we have reached a ceasefire situation, but why are we seeing firing at the border and drone activities? Airlines had to start their function, but again shut down at 5 airports yesterday night. Just an idea that is everything okay at the borders, or are we still fighting a battle there?
Geeta?
Geeta Mohan from India Today. Just wanted to know again about the dehyphenation and hyphenation question. India invested diplomatically for years in the dehyphenation of India-Pakistan, not just with the world, but particularly with the United States of America, and we've seen them dehyphenate. And now we're seeing President Trump hyphenate India-Pakistan, speak of them in the same breath, talk about them being great countries that US wants to do trade with. Is India raising this matter with the United States of America, reminding them of 9/11 and Osama bin Laden?
Okay, Reza.
Reza from Hindustan Times. Just a quick question on President Putin's offer for direct talks with Ukraine. Do we have a position on that?
Okay. So you talked about a fight against terrorism. You saw what the UN Security Council came up with a statement. The UN Security Council consists of 5 permanent members and 10 non-permanent members. It came out with a very strong condemnation. The United States is part of that. Our partnership with the United States as far as security, defense continues. It will continue to be, continue to grow and continue to deepen. Vinita, you had a question about drones, etc. These are questions that you will have to, when the MOD briefing happens, possibly they will give you. These are questions to be answered by people who deal with it. I don't have any particular update on it. Geeta, on the hyphenation part, see, I've already made it clear. Our understanding is that instead of being hyphenated, quite the reverse is happening, because people are realizing that here is a country which is running a factory of terrorism, and they need to be suitably taken to task. The conversation that we had with leaders across the world, with countries, they have all stood with India. There was very strong condemnation from leaders across the world, countries across the world, and they also realize that India has the right to respond, to take action for protecting its people. Sorry, I have already answered your question. Reza, on your question regarding the direct talks, we welcome the direct talks that have been announced between Russia and Ukraine. Talks present an opportunity for both parties to address their concerns through dialogue and diplomacy. India has consistently advocated the need for sincere and practical engagement between Russia and Ukraine to ensure early and abiding peace. With that, ladies and gentlemen, we come to the close of this press briefing. Thank you very much.